Welcome, my friends. Welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. The number to join us, 855-950-3835. It is Monday, May 16th. We are here live. We had a little bit of a snafu right now. I guess I'm about 4 minutes late, but I've been talking the last 4 minutes. I just didn't realize nobody was hearing me. One piece of our software I updated this morning, and then I tested it, and everything worked fine, but for some reason I had to restart that program. So I believe I'm here now. It looks like the broadcast is going the way it's supposed to, so I'll just start over. I will let you know that it is a free-for-all today, and the phone lines are open. We actually had a bunch of calls coming in earlier, and now they're gone. So if you want to join us, anything goes. If you have a question, a comment, a topic, it's just the one show today. Not a whole lot going on. I may start using Monday afternoons as a day to kind of get my book reviews done. I haven't decided yet on the book review if I'm going to do them live as a show and take calls, or if I'm just going to do it as recorded, and whether they're always going to be at the same time every week. I know people like that because you know when to listen, but sometimes if I have a little more freedom on those to do them at different times, I'll be able to get more done. So still working on that, but today it is a free-for-all. I'll stay here as long as we have calls and questions, so line them up, 855-950-3835. My open today is really more of a preview of things that I'm working on that will probably become episodes or opens for future shows with more detail. I started working on some things over the weekend, a little bit, not a lot. Spent a lot of time in the garden, and Lisa and I got a lot of canning done. But I started working on some ideas, and then I continued with them this morning, but none of them... Well, like I say, they'll make a good show or a good open for probably Destination Health in the Pit. But there's a lot going on right now in the economy. And the economy's everything, and I'm just not finding any good news right now in the economy. And I'm absolutely shocked about the response from this administration, or the lack of response, or the programs that are really not going to fix this problem, not going to have any impact. A couple I'll talk about. Again, I'm not going to get too deep into them right now. But 6 to 8 months ago, leading up into the holidays, remember the talk was all about all the container ships sitting off the port, and we couldn't get them unloaded, and we couldn't get things delivered. And since that time, and in fact longer than that, really for the last 2+ years, we've been talking about shortages. You know, go all the way back to the paper towel, toilet paper shortage, mask shortages. We're still talking about shortages. And now it's baby formula and so many other things. We're talking about possibly rationing diesel fuel in the New England states this summer. So if we think back 6 to 8 months ago, about the only thing we heard out of the administration that they were doing, they kept saying we're doing everything we can to fix this. Everything. They kept saying that. They still say it. We're doing everything we can. When you ask them what everything is, give us an example. What are you doing? Crickets. So the one thing that they actually did come out and talk about, and they've got a new idea now. So 6 to 8 months ago, remember, Pete Buttigieg, Secretary of Transportation, decided that we needed to make truck driving a better career. That was his answer. Well, first off, you know, I really don't like government involvement in fuzzy kind of areas like that. We need to make the truck driving a better career. What does that mean? And first off, that if you can pull that off as a government, I don't know how you do, but if you can, we're talking about years before that has an impact. Years, not months. So first off, I don't believe that's the place of the government, but if they're going to do it, don't do it now, trying to convince people that somehow that's going to make our supply chain work better. But it gets even crazier than that. I read this headline and I thought, what does that even mean? So, DOT seeks members for Transportation Equity Committee. So I started reading this. This whole word equity used to mean how much value we had in our home. And actually, equity is kind of based on value and net and those kind of things. But now we've totally changed the meaning of the word equity. And I don't understand what the new meaning of the word is, by the way. But I read this whole article, and the whole article is a giant word salad. And all I could actually get out of it was this group that they're seeking members. They're asking people to apply to be a part of this group. The best I can tell is that this group is supposed to study and figure out better ways of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, but only in selected communities. It's all about disadvantaged communities and how they're being impacted by greenhouse gases. Well, first of all, we don't really have a clue how any of us are being affected by greenhouse gases. We just don't. And to think that we should now target individual communities and figure out how it's impacting them, and then what are we going to do to fix that? We could argue about the whole program, but the bigger argument is, why now? Why would you put any time or effort into something that can barely be defined, will have zero impact on the problems we're all facing today, and yet we don't hear a single thing about what they're doing to fix the supply chain? And honestly, what they need to do to fix it is just get the hell out of the way. Stop all the damn regulations. Stop studies and groups like this. Get the hell out of the way and let business do business. It's probably too late. Like I said in my last open that nobody heard, I'm keeping track of economic news, and I can't find anything good. I could, like I said, I'm not going to get too deep into the details now, but I'm working on a show with this. The economic news right now is bad, and this is what our government's doing. Putting together groups to figure out something that they can't even define doesn't make any sense and is going to have zero impact. Now, here's something that I haven't been hearing anywhere. It was actually, this article was in Transport Topics. Kudos to them. Gasoline prices are at record high. Diesel prices are at record high. We keep hearing about supply and demand and should we pump more, and we should be pumping more, but we're not going to in this country. We're asking other countries to do it, which is also our solution to the baby formula now. The world's greatest superpower and greatest economy, the United States, can't even produce its own formula or fuel now. We're begging other countries to do it for us. We're going to import baby formula from Europe because we can't produce enough of it. How sad is that? So here's the problem when it comes to oil that I haven't heard anybody talking about. A lot of the problems right now are because we don't have enough refining capacity. So even if we get more crude oil supplies, we can't refine it. And here's why. Because of the COVID lockdowns. During the COVID lockdowns, refineries, if they had a line or a refinery that was sort of profitable, but it's old technology, it can cost hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars to update these refineries. And because of the COVID lockdowns, many of these companies decided to just close those refineries. And it doesn't look like they're going to open them back up because the government's in the way. Too many regulations. We have an administration that is clearly against fossil fuels, and companies are not going to make investments into refineries and fossil fuels in an economic or a political environment like this. In an economic environment like this, they should be scrambling to get those back online because there's so much demand. Prices are so good. Their profits are through the roof. The oil companies right now are making a lot of money, but they are private businesses. They get to decide how they want to invest their money. They are saying, we're not going to invest in refineries. We're not even going to invest much into crude oil going forward because the political environment is just against it. You can't take that kind of risk. So we're going to be facing high fuel prices and shortages for the foreseeable future, and I don't know how we're going to get out of this. Doesn't look good. When you go through the numbers, and again, I may turn this into an open, but one more point, and then I'm going to get to the calls because they're starting to come in. So line them up, 855-950-3835. In the last week, I've read many articles, and I've got an idea starting to come together. It's just a really tough topic. It's going to take a while. I've read several articles and pieces on how lockdowns, masks, and vaccines affected our economy, affected our health, affected our children. All of the effects were negative, all of them. And yet we're still pushing this kind of crap. So that's just a preview. I may do I don't know whether to make that a destination health or a pit. Maybe it'll be a combo of the two, because that all three of those really encompass our economy, our life, our businesses, our jobs, our health, all of it. And it's a fairly complicated topic, and most of this news is buried. You really have to dig to find this stuff, but everything we're looking back at now, all of our responses to COVID led us to where we are now, and not in a good way. All right, I'm going to get to the calls because they are starting to pile up. Let's go to Kansas to get started. Bob, welcome to the program.
Hey, how are you doing today, Kevin?
Good. What's on your mind?
Hey, I guess my comment would be about the baby formula thing. I mean, we've been like a species for like 250,000 years, maybe been evolving for 3 million years, and we've been breastfeeding all of this time. We've never needed baby formula until the last maybe 50 to 100 years. And it's just a commentary on how sick society is and how weak and sick we are, that we can't even, for billions of years or hundreds of thousands of years, we've been able to feed our babies without a special formula. It's just hard to believe how weak we have become and how dependent we are on these factory, things that we have to have. But, for all of these hundreds of thousands of years, we didn't need any of that.
No, you have it exactly right, and nobody's even talking about this. We talk about the supply chain and, can we get some from Europe, and hopefully they don't even think about importing any kind of formula from China. You're right. Why aren't we? Well, we're not talking about it in this case, just like we're not talking about it with COVID. I said many times COVID should have never been a problem. It's just that we've become so weak as human beings. And that's going to continue to get worse. But you're correct on the formula. This is such a new thing, having formula for babies. I mean, it's not even a microsecond in the amount of time we've been on the planet. And yet, look at the problems it's causing. Mostly in our country, we're probably the worst at this. And when you try to bring this up, I've seen discussions about this online. And the minute you bring anything up like this, you get pounced on. And it's, you need to stop shaming women because they can't breastfeed their babies. No, we don't need to stop shaming them. We need to talk about this. I'm not doing it to shame somebody. I'm doing it to point out the fact that we've become so weak now as human beings and so unhealthy that you are dependent, and look at what happens when you're dependent. We have parents now running around to multiple stores every day at $5 a gallon gas to try to find overpriced baby formula that's not good for their baby anyway. But if you bring that up, you get slammed for shaming women. And I get all the reasons why women can't do it. And they're legitimate reasons. They're too unhealthy that they don't produce enough breast milk. But try to say that and you'll get slammed twice as hard. They may not be able to.
Oh, my wife jumped down my throat.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mentioned this. This exact thing happened. I had mentioned this to my wife, and she jumped down my throat about this. She's like, "You can't talk about this." But I'm like, I'm not talking about you or any person directly. I'm just talking about society and how we have weakened ourselves to the point that we're dependent on these commercial products just to do essential things for our children.
And let's take it one step further. Why can't we talk about somebody directly? Honestly, the intention is to try to help them. Why can't we point out to a mother who is now desperate to feed her baby? She can't do it because she's either on, here's another reason, they're on some sort of medication that doesn't allow them to breastfeed because it's toxic to the baby. Why are so many people on all these toxic medications? Why aren't we talking about this? It's the same thing with COVID. Had we talked about this more, COVID wouldn't have been a pandemic. We wouldn't have these kind of shortages of formula if more women were able to. When a woman says, well, I'd love to, but I'm not able to. I get that. Let's talk about why you're not able to. And maybe it's too late for you. I don't know. But shouldn't we be talking about this so other mothers have options? So other human beings realize there's a better way to live than being dependent on our toxic food supply and then being dependent on our government to try to fix it? We can see where that gets us.
Absolutely.
Right here where we are today. Wouldn't we rather have a better future than this?
Absolutely. Hey, Kevin, I just was going to change this a little bit, but I started the book, Good Calories, Bad Calories, and I was just struck by listening to this book, and he goes way back into history, and how many times we have figured this out and then forgotten it. It's like a 30 to 50 year cycle where we figure out the proper diet. And this is like going clear back to the 1700s that we figure out the proper diet for humans. And then 30 years later, because of it's so profitable to be in this manufacturer of food business, it starts to take hold again. And then another 30, 50 years go by, and then we're like, oh, everybody's getting sick and having diabetes, or these odd problems, and then it's right back. Then we start to get further away from and then it goes right back to, because I think it has so much to do with the profitability these huge companies have on the control of our food supply, that we will always be wrestling between this industry and what is proper for humans to consume.
You know, it's interesting you bring that up. I found a new author. And when I say I found him, I've seen this author's name around for a couple decades. I don't know why I never chose to read any of his books. He writes a lot. I was really just looking. I've been doing a ton of reading for research, and I thought, I just need a break this weekend. I want to read some, a good novel. So David Baldacci is the author. Been around forever, written a ton of books. Somehow I never read any of his books. So I got one of his books, read it, absolutely love the guy's writing. So I'm binging now, and it's awesome because he has so many books. But in one of his books, in one paragraph, and I'm probably going to incorporate this into a Destination Health Open maybe at some point, in one paragraph, he totally outlined all the worst health advice we have had in the last 50 years. And the point was this main character was this amazing detective, and his family got murdered, and he, ends up homeless, and he gains 200 pounds, and now he's back to being a detective again. So in one paragraph, they outlined all of the worst health advice you could possibly imagine. He even says, and now I have to eat this new salad dressing from canola oil. It sounds so healthy. And I think, canola oil sounds healthy? How screwed up are we? That stuff is toxic. But he went through all of them: the low fat, the lean protein, the exercise till you fall over, the more expend more calories than you take in. I mean, he wrapped it all up in one paragraph, and I'm like, right there in that one paragraph is 50 years of really, really bad health advice, and we're still talking about it.
That's awesome. It's good to hear from you, Kevin. I'll let you go. Have a good show.
Great stuff. Thanks for the call. Let's head off to Ohio. Herschel, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin. Well, I'm calling you by way of the new app. I used the Ask a Question button.
Oh.
And it popped up the phone number. I hit it and dialed right in.
How cool. I love that.
How cool. So I had a cardio miracle question, but now I just got to say this about the baby formula. Why are we not at least promoting the natural breastfeeding idea?
Oh,
I don't get it.
You're absolutely right. And I said this, I think, on Friday, since this is a true emergency. I mean, there are people that are scrambling all day to try to find formula, and it's costing them a fortune. And yet the response from the FDA everywhere, I keep seeing articles, do not try to make your own formula at home. They are saying absolutely don't do it. Are you kidding me? The FDA should be all over the airwaves, all over social media, promoting making your own at home and showing people how to do it.
Well, and the other part I heard Friday on terrestrial radio, this one amazed me, that the administration says that they're going to allow imports of formula. Okay, wait a minute. I haul intermodal. The ships, the trains, you can't hardly get a chassis to put a container on right now, even if the container makes it to the city that it's supposed to be in. It's going to take 3-4 months for a container of stuff to come from wherever across the world. What are you going to do in the meantime?
Exactly. Let's just tie up the supply chain even more. Yeah.
Yeah. So cardio miracle.
Okay, go ahead.
Cardio miracle. I got it. And in the words of Mr. Wonderful, I think, what does he say? Is Baya Itya Caramba or whatever that tagline is, he says. That's kind of what that aftertaste does when it smacks you in the back of the head. Have you come up with something to put in it so that's not so radical? Woo, man.
Here's the odd thing, Herschel. I am really sensitive to those sweetener aftertastes. Forget the artificial sweeteners. I hate those things, and the aftertaste on those is awful. Sucralose, all of them. Stevia and sugar alcohols do tend to have an aftertaste as well. It's usually not as bad as the artificial stuff, but I'm still pretty sensitive to it. I pick it up pretty quickly, and I don't like it. And a lot of times I won't consume a product just because of that. Lisa's the same way. She's even more sensitive to it than I am. Here's the interesting thing. I get none of that with Cardio Miracle. No aftertaste at all. Lisa says the same thing. And I keep hearing online, people keep saying the same thing. They love the taste of it. There's no aftertaste. You are the first person I've heard to say that.
Oh, I'm wondering about putting a snort of maple syrup in it maybe. That'll calm it down. I don't know.
How much water what's your ratio of water to one scoop?
A scoop to 20 ounces.
Oh, you're really diluting it then. You shouldn't taste that at all. How weird.
Yeah. Oh, and it gives me this dry, cottony taste for like a couple of hours. I mean, I'll drink a half a gallon of water trying to wash out the aftertaste. Oh, my God.
That is really interesting because, like I said, normally I am so sensitive to that there are very few products with stevia even that I'll eat. And stevia is a completely natural sweetener. Hell, I've got a stevia plant growing in my garden, and it's crazy. You pick a leaf and chew it. It is so insanely sweet. But the only other product I know of that I will consume that has stevia in it is Lily's chocolate. Because in that chocolate, I get no aftertaste whatsoever. But just yesterday, I was out in the garden. I do a giant tumbler. about the same ratio as you, 1 scoop to about 20 ounces. And the reason I drink it is because it's so clean and it's so hydrating when I'm outside. So I wonder if this is almost like one of those weird genetic things, like there are a lot of people who can't eat cilantro because it tastes like soap to them. And it's a genetic thing. A lot of other people obviously love cilantro. I'm one of them. But there are people who won't go near it because it tastes like soap. And we should start this conversation on Healthy Tribe, and I'll ask for feedback now if anybody else experiences this. I have the exact opposite experience.
How big of a deal is it to do that before having anything to eat in the morning? That's what it says on the jug. But how big of a deal is it if you have or have not eaten?
I don't think those things are big deals. You know, a lot of times companies will write that in because they do want people to get the absolute best outcome possible. There are some nutrients that sometimes can be blocked by other nutrients. So I'm sure somewhere there was some science behind that statement, but I just don't get too crazy about stuff like that.
Now, I'm just doing the 1 scoop 1 time a day because I don't know if I can choke the second one down. Wow.
Yes, it's kind of funny. I was just talking about this yesterday with Lisa. I never get to my second cup, even though I want to. It's just like I run out of time in the day, and by the time I get to that point late in the night, I really don't feel like drinking another 20 ounces of water. But I want to. I just don't ever seem to get the time, or it doesn't work out. But for me, the biggest thing we talk about this, honestly, between Lisa and I, is how clean the taste is. And I've seen that same conversation online. So I want to start hearing from the people that say it's not that clean. That, sweetener aftertaste is awful. You're the first one, but I'm sure there must be more.
Yeah, it's good. It's good until it hits bottom, and then it's like, hello.
Yeah, that's usually how those sweeteners react. For me, it's the same thing. It's an aftertaste. It's not, you don't get it when it's in your mouth. You get it after you swallow. Yep.
I just finished mine probably an hour ago, and I'm still tasting it. Like, yuck.
No, I know the feeling. Right. I know the feeling exactly, and that's why there are several products that I just won't eat because of that, but I absolutely don't get that with this product.
It reminds me of years ago back in the 70s. I'm about your age. I'll be 56 in August. Tab was a big deal. Everybody thought Tab was great. So I tried it. I was a kid, I tried it. Oh, my God. It makes me think of the Tab back in the 70s. I hated it. No way.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I am the same way. Like I said, I found 2 products. Now, I've never found a product with sucralose or Splenda or any of those other. They always taste awful to me. Stevia, every now and then I'll find a product where I can't tell that there's stevia in there. And right now it's the Lily's chocolate and Cardio Miracle. I really just don't taste it.
Have you ever had Ultra Eco chocolate?
Yes, I have actually.
Oh, that stuff. Oh, my God. I got to be careful of that stuff.
It's good.
I can make sparks fly off of one of them bars. Man.
That is good chocolate.
All right, man, I'll leave you be and let you get on to somebody else. Thank you.
Hey, one more thing real quick. I just got this from Angie. So I need to ask her if she's experiencing this with Cardio Miracle. It says, I get the same. Stevia, monk fruit, erythritol. I'll have a nice taste initially, but then gets an awful aftertaste. Cilantro tastes like soap for her. So she's one of the people. Do you like cilantro? I don't know if there's any connection here or not, but.
Not red. To me, it kind of tastes like a moldy sweat sock might smell, if you can figure out that taste. It's odd. It's really odd. I can't do a lot of cilantro, no.
That's actually a genetic thing. If you take like the 23andMe DNA test, they'll tell you whether or not you have the gene that makes cilantro taste funny. Angie has never tried Cardio Miracle, so I may have to get her to try some so we can test this theory.
Yeah, tell her to have at it and keep you a glass of milk or something. Like you might want to.
All right.
All righty.
We'll keep talking about that, though. I'd love to hear from some other people because, like I said, it's actually interesting that when we talk about it, it's the opposite. We actually talk about how clean the taste is. That's if I'm outside working, on a hot summer day and I'm sweating a lot, normally all I want is water because anything else makes my mouth feel funny. The aftertaste is weird, almost anything at that point. I'd rather just have water. Cardio Miracle is one of the first products like that I actually look forward to having it when I'm outside and sweating a lot. Let's grab another call. We've got some room on the lines if you want to jump in right now. 855-950-3835. Jump in. I'll stay here as long as we've got questions today. But after the questions run out, I don't think we have anything else today. Not doing any shows after the free-for-all. Actually, I'm going to go work on my show schedule. We've been rolling out new shows and testing new technology, and we need to stay on the schedule. We just had an update on the app. Herschel was just talking about that with the call-in button. That's obviously working. The app is coming along well. We hope to have that out here soon to the general public, and then we'll start working on our broadcast platform and app as well. So lots of stuff coming up. We're rolling out new shows. We're working on 2 new shows in the background with 2 new hosts. I'm excited about that. And the network is growing. So let's get to those calls. Let's go to Oklahoma. Joe, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin. Long time. I haven't talked to you in a really long time. About your oil refineries, I was kicked out in '79. So
is that right?
I was I was a refinery worker for 2 years, 2.5 years, something like that, and they just quit building refineries altogether. So everybody that was building refineries went off to paper plants because they were building paper plants like they were nothing.
Yeah, we've heard this before that a lot of times, when we get hurricanes in the Gulf and it puts a refinery out of commission for a while, then we have shortages and prices go up. What we haven't been hearing is that, and sometimes it's as simple as that. They have a refinery damaged by a hurricane. They're not rebuilding them. And nobody's been talking about that. So now all of a sudden we're short on crude oil itself, but even if we get enough crude oil, it doesn't look like it's going to solve the problem because we can't refine it.
Well, when I started doing that, I finally everybody kind of explained it to me. A plant's a plant to plant. It can be a refinery, it can be a Kellogg's plant, it could be a hydroelectric dam. You get the same construction workers doing the same thing.
That's a good point.
So there's no shortage of labor. It's not the labor.
Well, I
thought they couldn't get people.
Yeah, well, here's part of the problem. Like you said, this has been going on in the refinery world for a long time, and we've heard about it before. But as long as our gas was relatively cheap, like it has been for years, and we never have any shortages, then nobody pays attention to that kind of stuff. But it's been going on slowly over time. Now we're at a place where it's become critical, and we're at this place where all of these things that have been building up for years are now critical. And I'm just shocked in our country we're talking about so many shortages of so many things. But to talk about your point with labor, 2 or 3 years ago, there was no labor shortage whatsoever. Now there actually is. And I don't know why. Where did everybody go that used to work? Did they all die of COVID or the vaccine? One of the two. You can't get people to do anything anymore. I'm looking at trying to get some work done here locally, and just forget it. If you can even get somebody to come out and give you an estimate, the estimate is so ridiculously high, you know what they're doing. They have so much work, they just throw out crazy prices, and if somebody takes it, then they'll figure out a way to do the job. I think that's all going to come to an end here pretty soon. We're already starting to see housing prices are pulling back, and I don't think this is going to go on for long. But right now, they would have a problem building or repairing refineries because they wouldn't be able to get enough people either.
I had a shop do that to me the other day. $20,000 to paint the truck.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that's happening. I
No, he just didn't want to do the work. He just said, if you're crazy enough to pay me that, I'll do it.
That's what I mean. And I know what that's like. I've been in that position myself where I used to do a lot of speaking. I used to travel to speak. I would speak almost anywhere where somebody invited me if they paid me a reasonable amount of money. I wanted to get my name out. I wanted to build a reputation. Then I got to the point where speaking is like the least thing I want to do. I don't want to travel. I don't want to go do that much anymore. I like working directly with our tribe and our listeners. And so I still get invitations all the time. I give them ridiculously high prices. And every now and then somebody will take it. And when they do, sure, I'll go do that job. But that's what we're seeing everywhere now. They just give you these crazy high estimates and figure they have more work than they know what to do with.
Well, the reason I called you is because I bought a 2008 Peterbilt that has been deleted, and it's a real trouble. I just want your opinion on it, if you don't mind.
What's the question specifically? We are absolutely against deleting.
No. It's supposed to have an ARD on it. It's got a Cat C15. It's supposed to have an ARD on it. When I went to pick it up, I saw that there's no ARD on it, so it's been deleted. Now you can delete a truck, and it still looks like it hadn't been deleted. But whoever deleted this truck, they took everything off, and I didn't catch it. Now my understanding is that if somebody sells you a truck that's been deleted, they have to tell you.
Well, wait a minute. That would be like if they tell you, they're admitting they broke the law.
No, they're just my understanding is you can sell a deleted truck if you tell the person that's buying it.
Where have you read or heard that? How would it be okay to sell one when it's illegal to delete it in the first place?
Well, because there's multiple uses. In other words, if you put on there deleted, what that means is it's just a parts truck.
I see what you're saying.
You can't drive that down the highway.
I see.
Right.
Okay. I guess that could be the case. You're right. There are legal reasons you're allowed to delete trucks, but once you do it, it's no longer, legal for highway use. I see what you're saying. So yeah, I'm with you. I would think. Now, this could also be state to state because a lot of vehicle transfer laws are state laws, not federal laws. So are you aware of the state where the transaction took place, where you bought the truck, what their laws are about this?
Oh, no, but I did call it. I got it in Indiana. I drove it down here. It drove great. I don't know. So I called the lawyer there, and he told me he wants pictures, and he wants 2 people to come out and give testimonials. And I have no idea what that even means. Furthermore, he said, even if I do sue and win, if he's got everything in somebody else's name, I'm never going to get anything.
Well, here's the thing about lawsuits that a lot of people don't realize. There are multiple steps if you're trying to get money back on something or some sort of damages. First, you have to be able to take them to court, whether that's small claims court or a traditional court, and that depends on the amount you're suing for and what state you're in. And if you do happen to win a judgment, people think, oh, I won. Yeah, but what have you won? Because the courts don't do much about collecting these judgments. They just issue the ruling. Yes, you have a judgment against this person. Now, trying to collect that money for all kinds of reasons. One, they might have put the name, all their stuff in somebody else's name. 2, they may not have anything. We need to be careful about suing somebody that doesn't have anything to recover. And there's all most judgments never get paid out.
This guy's got money. But one thing that took me aback
Hold on, Joe.
Go ahead.
Joe, you can't know that, I don't think, unless you absolutely have access to his financial records. I don't care if the guy has 37 brand new cars in his garage and a $2.5 million home. It doesn't mean that he has any money. He could be so far in debt that he's actually completely upside down and has a negative net worth. You can't know that about somebody.
You can just think it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like people have money. There's a lot of this going around. You know, I remember a term that I used to hear about Dallas all the time. I used to spend a lot of time in Dallas speaking and events and things. They called them $30,000 millionaires. They made $30,000 to $40,000 a year, and when you looked at them, you'd think they'd make $1 million. They're driving a Mercedes, they're decked out in new clothes, and they are so upside down on everything they own. And I think we're going to see a lot of that now. I think we're going to see a lot of those people start to file personal bankruptcies because this economy is going to take them down.
And then I get nothing.
You
right?
get nothing. Exactly correct. You get a judgment and a piece of paper, but you get nothing in return.
What took me aback was he also said, since before I took it, it was at a shop that I used for a very long time. He DOT'd it, made $4,000 worth of fixes, and I got the DOT deal. He goes, you know what? I think I'm going to sue that shop. I thought, what? How can you sue the shop? This guy's going to sue everybody, I guess.
Well, that's what lawyers do. I mean, it's like doctors and surgeons. If you go to a surgeon, they want to do surgery. That's what they do. They don't look for other options. Same thing here. Lawyers, that's what they want to do. They want to sue people because that's how they make money. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the best idea for you. Here's what I would do. I mean, I just like to give people practical advice. You've already bought the truck. I would not waste 1 minute or $1 trying to sue somebody over this, because the odds of you coming out of it in a good way are slim to none. The amount of time that it can take, the cost that it can take, the odds that you're actually going to get something. If I were you, I would run this truck for a while. If it looks like it's going to be a good truck, like fuel economy is pretty good, performance is good, I would just keep it and run it. If it wasn't a good truck, then I guess I'd try to resell it, and I guess I'd be more honest about telling the buyers that it was deleted, unfortunately. But I would try running it first and see what it does.
Well, that's also a crime, doing that, selling that like that. And I'm not real sure, because people were telling me before you even left, you should have called the sheriff. I said, well,
yeah,
hindsight,
Yeah, again, the sheriff's going to come out and say, this is a civil matter. They don't understand the law. This is, like I said,
really?
Yeah, this is just a mess, the whole situation. So my practical advice, honestly, just run this truck, and if you like it, I would just keep it.
Well, I can guarantee you I'm not the only one.
Oh, no, I'm sure this happens quite a bit.
Because you could, if that ARD's on there, you can actually throw that ARD away every 6 months, and that truck will run just fine.
Oh, I know.
I actually looked into it after I bought it. So.
I know.
Oh, you just got it. It's just another $3,000. I mean, it's just $3,000 you got to spend every 6 months.
Right. Yeah, and
so that was my plan.
You're right. It is difficult sometimes unless you really understand these emission systems and how it's possible to delete them, but still leave all the parts on there and kind of make it look like it's difficult. Most people would not be able to figure it out.
Well, this guy didn't even try. He just threw it all in the trash.
Yeah. Well, like I said, let's hope this thing runs well and gets decent fuel economy. And if it does, I would just keep it and make money with it.
Well, I appreciate your advice. I haven't talked to you in a long time. I hope things are going well with you and yours.
They are. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Florida. Derek, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin, how are you?
Doing good. What's on your mind today?
Well, I just, about a week or two ago, I installed an OPS on the truck, and at that time, I dropped the T4 oil that was in there and put T6 in, and I took a sample at the meantime to get a baseline for where I was at after a recent in-frame. So you should have that information from you.
Yeah, so this one, it looks like you put, 16,000 miles on the oil, and we're at 26 on the in-frame. So I'm assuming you did that first oil change right at about 10,000?
Yeah, it was. It was right in there at the 10,000 range.
Okay.
And I just dropped it, and, with all the mess that's in there. And I probably should have dropped it earlier.
Yeah,
now that's going hindsight, looking back.
That's, we do recommend it. It's a good idea. I'm not sure how much of a difference it really does make. Who did the in-frame?
It was a Detroit shop in Omaha.
Well, they did a hell of a job as far as I can tell from the sample, because this thing looks like it's running really well.
And I saw where they flagged a little bit of fuel dilution, but if memory serves right, that isn't too high on your spec.
It's not even close to anything we would ever be concerned about. You're at 2.1. I think they start flagging it at 2. And we tell people not even to think about injectors until you get to 4. You're not even close. So that to me is a really low fuel dilution number. They flagged a little bit of tin. It's 3 parts per million.
I saw that as well.
Your silicon is nice and low. There's a little bit of a soot issue for a Series 60. It's a really clean engine. We like to get soot down under 0.1. You're at 1.6, but I would give that some break-in time. And if that doesn't clear up, say by 75 to 100,000 miles, then I would, and I may just do it anyway, do the overhead on a Series 60, somewhere between 75 and 100. But it looks to me like they did a great job on this. Okay, great.
I'm glad to hear that. Like I said, this is my first time doing having a sample done on anything. So, got the OPS running. It's been doing great. I've installed a fleet air filter. I've been through to see Chad down in Kansas City. So I'm making the moves. I'm
Excellent.
Just one little piece at a time, like Johnny Cash. So.
There you go. Excellent. Love that. Well, keep it up and keep sampling, because it tells us a lot.
Yeah, so you recommend 25,000 on that?
Yep.
Just pull a sample off the system?
Yep.
Okay.
If you have the OPS, use the 10-inch filters and do a sample and a filter change every 25,000, and then we don't change the oil till that sample tells us we should.
Right, and change the full flow filters every other time, correct?
Perfect. Yep, you got it.
There you go. All right. I'd appreciate your time. Let you on to the next one.
Looking good. Thanks for the call. Let's, I do have a report back from Angie on the Cardio Miracle. Matt had some at home, so she tried it. She sent me a green-faced emoji, and she doesn't like it. This is going to be interesting if it turns out this has some correlation with the cilantro gene. So far, 2 people who don't like the taste of Cardio Miracle, and that's been pretty rare so far. I haven't heard much of this at all. But neither one of them like cilantro, and that's actually a genetic thing. So we'll have to see if that holds true or not. And the thing with the gene, by the way, is not 100% either. I have heard some people say they absolutely hate cilantro and they don't have that gene. I don't know if I've heard anybody that has the gene and likes cilantro, though, the other way around. I might have to do some digging on that. Let's go to Matt in Georgia. Matt, welcome to the program. Matt, are you there? Let me try bringing him back in one more time. Something weird happened when I did that. How about this time? Matt, are you there? Huh. Angie, I'm going to put Matt back into the queue. Can you check that line for me? And I'm going to try Vic and Sarah in Illinois. Welcome.
Hey, what's up, Kevin?
Hey, there you are. It must not be me then. What's on your mind today?
Oh, a lot of things. You said you might have a second to get another call, so I had to bring this one by you. Who is in control of Texas border? Is it Governor Abbott or is it our buddy Biden?
Well, technically, for the most part, the federal government should be protecting all of our borders. That's their job, and we have several agencies that do it. We have Border Patrol, we have ICE, we have all kinds of agencies that can be a part of that protection. And then I do believe that states also have some rights about how they protect their own borders. And for the most part, states have not gotten involved with this, and it's mostly been controlled at the federal level. But what we're seeing happening now, and especially in Texas, because they're getting hit the hardest, is that the federal government is doing nothing. These states and these local communities and farmers and ranchers are being horribly impacted by this. And the states are now stepping up, Texas, and saying, look, we'll spend our own money to fix this problem then. They've been asking the federal government for, since this administration took over, they've been asking the federal government for help, and the problem just continues to get worse. The numbers get bigger and bigger and bigger. Now we're worried about Title 42 ending. I think that's coming up fairly soon, and they're predicting those numbers could double or triple. So the states are saying, look, we have to step up and do something.
Well, my understanding is that also, and I kind of had this conversation with Matt also. Now, in this situation, you're the governor. It's either going to cost you hundreds of millions of dollars to let all these people in, or it's going to cost you hundreds of millions of dollars to put the National Guard or whoever down there at the border, right?
Right.
Either way, it's going to cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Are you reactive or are you proactive? You want to keep running for offices in the future, or you want to stand out like Santos? Right now, the only people in conservative lines that are really standing out seems to be the DeSantos guy, because he's doing all the right things. His character building just went through the roof, and on top of it, if this Abbott guy really wants to continue to have some type of thing, couldn't he spend? Isn't there ways of putting people down there in the border, stopping this stuff?
Well, there are ways, but you've also, you do have to look at the cost. You've got to look at legalities, and that can get crazy because, the federal government can tie them up in court if they decide to. It'd be nice to think that all he has to do is, write a couple orders and send people down to the border and this would stop, but I just don't think it's that simple. Texas has a really, really big border and a lot of problems, and they are reactive right now because we've always left this to the federal government. That's the way it's worked for as far back as we can remember. Now, again, after a year plus of just begging the government to do something, we have a president who's never been to the border. And from what I understand, never in his entire 48 or 50-year political career. Not just as a president. It's one of our biggest problems. He's not there. He appointed Kamala to be the border czar. She's done nothing whatsoever. Now we find out that it's very possible that the illegal immigrants have all the baby formula they need if they break the law and come into our country. So maybe one of the strategies for the moms who can't find formula, maybe take a cheap flight into Mexico and then cross the border illegally. You'll be able to feed your baby that way. The border's a mess, and the federal government is doing absolutely nothing, and now these states are trying to play catch up.
Well, we've been listening to this since we've been listening, actually paying attention to it. You're both of our lifetime. I'm born and raised down there in Southern California, and it was never that big of an issue until It was an issue. Just like we don't know what we don't know until we we figure out we don't know it, and then we start doing a little research, and we find out that, well, wait a second. If this guy in governor is going to have to spend these hundreds of millions of dollars in medical and all the emergencies and all the different things that pertain to the million people coming into your state, you know, the all the different expenditures that are going to happen. Wait a second, if I put some expenses up here, I might be able to divert some down here. So, I mean, it just seems like I know it's a very frustrating situation for them, people who are down there. I can imagine, you're sitting on the border. I mean, the only way to offset that is to put the money up front, be bold, got to be bold, make a stand now, and hopefully, you know, people like you and I, we remember this guy. Oh, yeah, I remember back when Governor Abbott, he did this when all this stuff was going on, and man, look at it now. That was a bold move. You'll be remembered for that. Or just let hundreds of millions of people come into our, hundreds of thousands of people come into our society, and then we find out later down the road some guy wiped out a supermarket in Buffalo, New York. You know, oh, it's just an 18-year-old kid. It had nothing to do with that. No, people listen to all this stuff, and they start getting pissed. They start getting angry. Then I'll take life into my own hands and stuff shit like this happens. I mean, this is going to happen. This is like a domino effect.
Oh, there's no doubt. You're right. Let me play devil's advocate, because Abbott's in a tough place right now. A state like Texas.
Yeah.
Holy cow, that is a huge economy. There is a lot going on in a state like Texas, and the governor's got to be responsible for it all. And you have to remember, if the federal government is always taking care of our borders, which they always have, there's nothing in the state's budget that's ever been set aside for things like this. Why would there be? Why would you have a budget for something you don't need to spend money on? The federal government always did. Now all of a sudden he's in this position. The federal government's not doing anything. Did you see what he was doing? He was putting these illegal immigrants on buses and sending them to D.C. to try to get their attention.
That was great. I like that.
Yeah, it's symbolic. A couple bus loads isn't going to fix the problem, but it was at least a plea. Look, we need help, and we're sending these people to you because we can't handle them anymore. Now he has a tough decision to make. If he's going to spend a bunch of money on the southern border, he's got to take it from somewhere else in the budget. Now you create another financial problem in the state, and depending on who that problem impacts, you could be out of a job at the next election. This is not that simple. You are correct. He's going to have to spend the money one way or the other. But the first thing they're trying to do before because if you start building border walls, I mean, once you spend it, that money's gone. If you spend money to put a bunch of National Guard troops and other enforcement agencies down there, the money's gone. So your first attempt is always, look, why isn't the federal government doing their job here? Why do we have to spend our money? And don't forget, governments don't have any money. That's the taxpayers of Texas. That's their money. And he has to decide how to spend it and what makes sense. And there's no good answer. If he's going to protect that border, he's going to have to pull the money off of some other place where they needed it maybe just as much or more.
Yeah, that's pretty much what our buddy said. That alluded to the same scenario, but it just, you get to the point where, when we start seeing, we'll see this. We'll see these people, these Asians. They're not just what people call Mexicans and Salvadorians and Colombians. They're Cubans. They're coming halfway across the country to go in illegally, which gets them in legally. Then they go through those borders. Now, it only takes a handful of times before everybody gets to the conclusion. Wait a second, this is how you get through the country. I remember back when Sarah and I went to Aruba. The only thing we thought of in a kind of in a jokingly way, had we gotten stopped in Aruba, all we would have had to do is go across the continent, drive back up, and then go through it illegally, and we'd be back in our country.
Everybody in the world now knows we have no southern border. They're flying from all over the world into Mexico or other South American countries so that they can just walk across our border. Why wouldn't you? I mean, I don't blame the people for doing this. That our government has basically said, come on in, we'll take care of you.
And it's been like this for I don't know how long. And I remember back in the 80s and 90s where they used to talk about how, Carter was letting everybody in, but he was saying, well, I only want them in for the conservative people who own these big old farms. They want the labor, so they don't say anything, and they just let us take it, and they let us take our little piece of the pie, and we'll take the blame for everything, and this is so go ahead.
I just want to make it clear, I am all for legal immigration. In fact, right now, based on what's going on in our economy, I want to increase the numbers of legal people, immigrants we allow to come to this country. Increase the number. Encourage more people to come. We need them. We have a huge labor shortage in this country. Why not bring in more people? But why don't we be responsible about it? We should be vetting these people. They just found like 30 or 40 people on the terror watch list that they caught crossing the southern border. If we caught 30 or 40, there's probably 300 of them at least on the terror watch list. But we should be expanding our legal immigration. We should be locking down the borders hard. We should be putting a stop to all of this flooding across the border and then we just let you into the country. That needs to stop, and we need to increase the number of legal immigrants we're allowing into the country.
And you know what? Since we're just out of high school, that stuff's been going on. These conversations have gone on, and this is what we should do. This is what we should do. And then here we are 40 years, is it 30? It's 40 years later?
Yeah.
It's the same scenario, and here we are talking about it, and listen twice as much, as you speak. That's why I don't kind of call in. I just listen to you, and I listen to you go on and pick up my stuff that stays in my brain. And my God, this scenario that we're dealing with right now is so far out of realm of reality that your pit.
Well,
partners in.
So let me just play off of the comment you just made that you and I, when we graduated 40 years ago, and the reason you focus on 40 years ago when you and I graduated is because that's probably about the time we first started paying attention to these kind of things, right? As a 10-year-old, you don't think about this kind of stuff. So really, we could go back even further. That's just when you and I became aware of this. It's been going on longer, but let's not just talk about the border. Have high gas prices and shortages been a problem in the past? Wasn't it the 70s where we had to ration gas and we had lines everywhere? So that's
whatever your license plate allowed you. That was the day, whether it's Monday, Tuesday,
Right. So that's not a new problem. Do you remember in the late 70s, early 80s, how bad crime was in big cities? New York was a cesspool. Remember how bad New York City was as far as crime was in the 80s and other big cities?
You would never think about visiting on a vacation.
Correct. So that's not a new problem. We talk about in the 80s, early 80s, we had stagflation and rampant inflation, which was a huge so that's not a new problem. Here's what's happening, though. Almost each one of those problems peaked at different times. Now, all of a sudden, we are dealing with all of them at once, and we're setting records. We're setting record numbers in crime. We're setting record prices for fuel and gas, and now we're talking about shortages. We're talking about baby formula shortages. The southern border doesn't even exist anymore. So all of these problems, we could look and say, well, yeah, there were other times in the past when they were bad, Never have they been this bad, and never had we had to deal with them all at the same time.
You know, I try to bury my head. I listen to you, Gary, on, well, you know what? Don't just listen to one news outlet. Listen to a couple of them. Get your, formulate your opinion. I can't listen to none of them. It's even Fox. It's getting, I don't watch NBC, ABC. I don't watch all that stuff. It's all negative and it's all angry, and so I don't watch it. So then I listen to your Tuckers or your. Now it's only Gutfeld. I barely listen to Tucker because he does that to me. He'll go, "Oh, did you catch this? Watch this." And then you watch it and you go, "God damn it, I didn't watch that because I didn't want to see this shit." Now you're making me watch it,
Yeah, no, I get it.
So I don't listen to Hannity anymore because he does a lot of that. And then you Jesse Waters and all these people, "Hey, watch this. Here, I'm going to show you this." God damn it. I didn't watch that because I don't want to listen to that shit.
Well,
I want an unfair and unbalanced kind of...
I have a theory on why we're getting so fed up with hearing this. It's because we've been hearing it now for years, literally. We've been hearing it for years, and I get tired of talking about it because there don't seem to be any solution. Well, that's not true. There are plenty of solutions. The people in charge don't seem interested in solutions. And it just seems to me like we're just talking about the same stuff over and over and over, and there is zero improvement. Like I said, I don't remember which open I said it in this morning. I did 2 of them, but nobody heard the first one. This administration, it makes me insane to watch the press briefings every day, but I watch them every day. It's like pure torture. But no matter what the topic is, the problem, all these problems we keep talking about and outlining, their answer is the same thing. We're doing everything in our power to fix that, but they won't tell us one single thing that they're doing.
Kevin, if it wasn't for you, there's a certain, people say, you don't tell Kevin that his head thing. I don't give a shit. You're probably one of the most well-read and rounded people, kind of like fair and balanced. It used to mean something, but now with the got my chain of thought where I was going with that. But if it wasn't for you, listening to you, I think I would be a Gutfeld because you ever watch Gutfeld?
Yeah, at least he tries to add a little humor to it.
Humor. It's all humor, and you're laughing, and it's so humor. That's what he does with it, and I go, well, shit. I'm all the way to like first 5. Listen to Tucker's opening, and then when I don't want to watch this, bing, there goes the button. I'm done with you. And then I'm done with you. You start making me watch shit. I don't watch that program because of this, and then now I'm watching you, giving you the benefit of the doubt. Now you're going to make me watch it.
Hey, Vic.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched The View?
Oh no, Kevin, come on now.
You should watch it. Really,
I'm definitely going to watch.
You should watch it and then call me back. We'll have fun with that.
My head, that's what you do. But it's I'm getting too old now. Thank God for your cardio miracle, because I really do believe that it's calmed down my heart and it's fixed it from getting close to having a heart attack. So, and then I say, well, shit, and then Kevin says, well, get a big scoop, a heaping scoop. So I'm a heaping scoop type of guy. And then you know what? This darn country is going to drive me into a massive heart attack. Oh, and you got to take it once in the morning and once at night. Oh, shit, I have been doing that at night. So now it's like twice a day. This is what I focus on more than copy. Go ahead.
I just had an idea for a show. I need to think this through, but it might be really fun to get 3 or 4 other people together with me and have a panel. And the whole point of the show is we'll watch the View the day before, and then we'll comment on all the things they commented on. That should be fun.
I'm not an intellect like you are, Kevin. My passion. Okay, Vic, breathe now, Vic. You got to breathe. That's what you're going to be telling me. Because I'm going to be saying, Vic, you got to remember to breathe.
That's right.
You got to remember that you're talking to people that are listening, because I won't handle it very well. That's why I got, ex-surfers. We got in a few scraps here and there, Kevin, and passion was something that we were really into, and what we believed in, whether it was, we believed in. And the other stuff, we just kind of push it to the side, And to watch The View, are you kidding me? Oh, my God. I'm not in condition to do that, Kevin.
We'll
3 scoops a day, Vic. 3 scoops a day.
we'll work on it. We'll put you in the sauna blanket and then a cold shower and give you a bunch of Cardio Miracle, and we'll get you ready.
I'll tell you what. I'll do this. This time we'll give you my word. The next time Sarah says, "Oh, I got to go," we're in the area and you got to go see Vic, Sarah, Lisa, and Kevin. And okay, well, it's Monday afternoon. I'm going to go in. We're going to go visit them, and we're going to watch The View together.
There you go.
I'll do that with you. I'll watch it together with you.
There you go.
Sit in my view of you. It'll be Kevin's view.
There you go. All right. Sounds like a plan. Hey, Vic, good talking to you as always. The phone lines are exploding again, which is awesome. I want to make sure I get to these. Let's go to South Carolina. Eric, welcome to the program.
Oh, you want to talk about the Chinese art of timing? Oh, I just got done with the shipper in here.
Oh, there we go.
Walking back out to the truck.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I want to touch on something before I ask my question. You had the guy with the deleted engine. He said that off-road use. Yeah, off-road engines are Tier 4 interim for 2011 and Tier 4 full 2014, just like large trucks.
Oh, well, there's a good point.
Yeah.
And I don't keep up with that stuff. I know we have industrial engines, we have military engines, we have off-road. It's also damn confusing.
Yeah, it goes from 150 horsepower up to 750, and then the 750 plus is a different animal there.
Now, I just want to make sure, because I don't know this for a fact, but I have a feeling that horsepower is only based on the original stated horsepower from the manufacturer. You can't go turn your engine up to 900 horsepower to get away from these regulations.
That's correct. That's correct. And even if you did, you'd have to go through a bunch of stuff like Joel has to go through. Joel, he gets new valve cover and all kinds of stuff with the new emission standards for what little bit of horsepower he changed.
Yeah, you're right. Good point.
So my actual question is, I bought a car, and I bought the car to take up to the company that I'm leased on with and use it on my personal time. Now, I realize that I don't get the deduction for travel and all that kind of stuff to use that car from that location to go home. My actual question is, if I put a geo-tracker on that particular vehicle, will I get the deduction for the cost of the geo-tracker?
Yes, as a percentage, or actually it depends on what method you're going to use to deduct that vehicle. And if you use the method I'm probably going to recommend, then no, technically you don't. There are two methods. First off, you are an owner-operator, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And let's talk about a kind of a hack to add some deductible miles here. You are correct that if the trip from your home to where the truck is parked, that's considered a commute, and commutes are technically not deductible. But if instead You leave your house and you go
Make the
to
parts run.
the parts store and then to the truck, then that becomes deductible. So just keep
I
that in
thought about that. Yeah, I thought about buying something from
Yep.
Volvo and then driving
Yep.
all the way to Volvo in Louisville from Minneapolis and doing it that way. I did think about that.
There are ways to make those things deductible. So keep that in mind. It can really add up. There are two methods for deducting the business use of a personal vehicle, and that's what this is. It's a personal vehicle, but you own a business. You're allowed to use that vehicle, and we're allowed to take a deduction when it is a business use. So the first way, which is far more complicated and almost always ends up in a smaller deduction, is that you take all of the expenses for owning that vehicle. Payments, insurance, interest, repairs, maintenance, all that stuff. And you add it all up and you say, okay, I spent this much money to own and operate this vehicle. Now you have to keep two different logs on mileage. You keep a log every time you use it personally, and you keep a log every time you use it for business. Now we have to figure the percentage. Did you use it 72% for business? If you did, then we get to deduct 72% of all of your expenses. That's the first method. The second method is you keep one log for business use and keep total miles you put on the vehicle, and then you just take the standard allowance, which off the top of my head...
Like 56 cents or something.
I was going to say it's usually between 50 and 60 cents a mile, and when gas prices go up, that number goes up. It always has. I'm assuming it will again now. But even if it doesn't, nobody spends 50 to 60 cents a mile to operate a personal vehicle. It's not even close.
Right.
So using the mileage allowance is the way to do it. And then technically, no, you don't get a specific deduction for that item you put on the GeoTracker because now it's just part of your mileage allowance.
Right. Okay, yeah, I was just curious about that because I was looking at Links Up, and they're like $36 a month, but it gets mounted deep into the dash where they can't just disconnect it.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea to have one. $36 a month isn't much, and you, like I said, that mileage allowance is so generous that you get to deduct far more than you really spend.
Outstanding. So, I'll tell the wife whenever we decide to go on home time that, we got to pick up some parts.
Yeah, and one other thing that a lot of people don't realize, because they make it sound like if you're going to use the mileage allowance, that covers everything. That's not technically true. There are still two other areas that involve that vehicle that you are allowed to deduct directly even when you're on the mileage allowance. And they are tolls and parking. So if you're paying to park that vehicle somewhere, then that parking is deductible on top of the mileage allowance, and any tolls you might spend are also deductible on top of the allowance.
Well, I've got a spot inside of the shop, so I really ain't going to be paying for that.
Okay.
I drive it up the ramp and park it over in the corner, and they stack a bunch of freight around it. So, we're going to be in pretty good shape, I think.
Perfect. Yeah, go with the mileage allowance. It's so much easier and better.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Texas. Greg, welcome to... Oh no. Greg, if you're listening, call right back, and I'll move you up to the top of the line. I hit the wrong button. That was my fault. But if you dial right away, I'll see your call back up there, and I'll move you to the top. Let's try Georgia instead. Matt, I hit the right button for you. What can I help you with today?
Cardio Miracle.
Yes.
I bought some. I didn't have low blood or high blood pressure or anything. It's just the guy talking about it told me it had all kinds of great benefits. But I hadn't checked my blood pressure for a couple of months, checked it over the weekend. It's numbers like I'd never seen before, like 100, over 70. And normally I was running 130, 135, over about 80. So the stuff really does work. But the reason I was calling, a couple of callers said they had problem with the taste. You can add a lemon to it, or you can add your Bragg's vinegar to it, and it takes the sweetness right out of there.
Oh, you know what? You just reminded me of something I was doing last summer, and I forgot all about it. When I would make my big tumbler to go outside and work in the garden, I would put some Bragg's in there. Just because I kind of like that acidic taste, and, it makes it even cleaner, and you get a bunch of good stuff from the Bragg's. And I was doing that last summer. I forgot all about that. You're right. It changes that taste quite a bit. So are you sensitive to the taste without the Bragg's in it?
No, it tastes good to me. I just, I hadn't tasted anything sweet in so long. It was unusual. But, I didn't really put it in there to change the taste. I just got to, have a lemon a day and Bragg's every day. Just kind of put it all together there.
That's kind of why I did it too. It wasn't because of the taste. I figure since I'm going to make this every day, it only takes me a second to throw some Bragg's in here, and then I'm getting some every day. So I didn't do it for the taste, but you're right. It cuts the sweetness way down on it. That may work for him.
Yeah, and another thing on, you said the yogurt tasted kind of tart. I didn't have a problem with the taste, but I did experiment a little bit and put some of the collagen peptides in it. I think I had some kind of orange vanilla flavor, put that in there, and that gave it a sweet taste. Also, you can put that Cardio Miracle in the yogurt as well and gives it a sweet taste.
Somebody else mentioned that. I haven't tried that yet, but Cardio Miracle in the yogurt might be a really good thing to do. I like that idea.
Yeah, well, give it a try, my friend. I appreciate you, Kevin.
Will do. Thanks for the call. Great stuff, by the way. Let's, all right, I don't see Matt in Georgia. He had a question on Cardio Miracle as well. Matt, I hung up on you, so if you want to dial back in, I'll keep an eye out for your call, and I'll move you up to the top. Let's go to Lost Wages. Gene, welcome to the program. Oh, Gene, are you there? That's another one. I'm going to put that one back in the queue. Angie, can you check on that that call? Let's try Texas. Terry, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin, how's it going?
Good. What's on your mind today?
Cardio Miracle. It tastes pretty bad to me. It's almost like taking medicine. But I also can't do stevia. It's real bitter, and I cannot stand cilantro.
Interesting.
So maybe there's something to it.
I got to go do a little digging on this, because cilantro is one of those foods that people seem to either love or they hate. And I fall in the love category. Man, you can't put enough cilantro on something for me. I use it a lot. I grow it all summer long.
I've done a lot of Mexican restaurants and salsa. I can have a little bit in it, but if they put too much, I can't do it.
That's
I
interesting.
can handle just a little bit, but not much.
Yeah, so now we're starting to hear the same thing about Cardio Miracle, that some people, and I will tell you, Lisa is a good test of this. Lisa does not, she's like a super taster. She's really sensitive to taste and smell, and it's one of the reasons she can cook so good, because she has such a sensitive palate. But normally, anything like this, with any kind of a sweetener, she just can't stand it. Cardio Miracle is one of the things she does consistently. Every day. I never see her miss a day with Cardio Miracle. So it's the same way. People either seem to love the taste of Cardio Miracle or they hate it. And this is the first I'm hearing about this.
Well, I don't hate it. I mean, I can drink it and tolerate it, but I don't look forward to it. I just kind of turn it up, kind of get it over with, kind of like taking medicine, cough medicine or something. Just got to get her down, just mix it up. I mix it about 12, 16 ounces and, one scoop, and I'll just mix it up and I'll just chug it.
See?
It's the only way I can't sit on
it. It's interesting. I normally don't drink a lot of flavored stuff. I drink mostly water, coffee, tea, kombucha, which is flavored, but, that to me is just a really, really natural kind of flavor. So I was shocked that I enjoy drinking the Cardio Miracle so much. Like, I look forward to it. It's going to be interesting if this thing turns out to be that same gene as cilantro.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, because I know, I was a biology. I have a degree in kinesiology, which is part of the reason I called my question. But I remember in one of the biology labs, you had the little taster. You put the little piece of paper on your mouth and on your tongue, and some people could taste it, some people could not. I could not taste it. It's like putting toilet paper in my mouth. But then some people would just spit it out, gagging. It tasted so bad.
Yeah,
it's the taster gene.
Lisa and I are almost opposites when it comes to tasting. We're both big foodies. I love food. I love to cook. I love all kinds of things about food. But she's a super taster. I'm the opposite. I need strong flavors in everything. I want strong coffee. I want, hot salsa. I want heat on almost everything I eat because I don't have a really sensitive palate. I have the opposite. Like I can eat anything just about, because I don't taste it really strongly. And then I cook foods with big, bold, strong flavors and almost always add heat to just about everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the I can handle the heat, but I don't like a lot of the flavors of the heat. The things that cause, that give you the spicy.
Right.
It's one of those. And I actually did the 23andMe, and it actually told me on there, you probably have an aversion to cilantro, and you also probably have a low bitter tolerance. And yes, I don't like, if I drink coffee, it's got to have some cream in it. I've got to tone it down some.
See, for me, when it comes to coffee, now there's a fine line between bitter and strong tasting in coffee. And it has to do with the bean, how it was roasted, how it was ground, the temperature of the water you use. It gets crazy, but for me, I push the limits. I want the strongest black coffee I can get without it becoming bitter. And I had to double down on that when I started drinking NDK coffee, because you put all that fat in there and fat will cover up that flavor. So now I have to brew even stronger coffee so I can get that coffee taste.
Right. Well, my question was about keto and Cardio Miracle in a way. I've done it before, but I just got back on it. Started about a month ago, because I'd got the Keto Mojo, so I could monitor it and see how I was doing. And I was doing well after about 2 weeks. My GKI had gotten down to like 1.5, so I was in there pretty good.
Excellent.
Staying there, but I don't know why. But here this last week, my glucose is now up to 100, 110. It's even hit 120, whereas before, even when I first started, it was never over 95 or 105, somewhere in that around the 100 mark. And now my ketones are down to like 0.5. And I was like, is there anything in the Keto Miracle that could knock me out or, kind of mess up my numbers?
It's possible, and you should test it, do a week with, a week without.
Well, I quit drinking it Friday, and since then it's already started. The GKI is already coming back down. It's already gotten back down to about a 5.
That could be it then.
4 to 5.
Yeah, and that's the way we would test it.
And I don't think it. And yeah, that's, like I said, being a biologist, I was a high school teacher and stuff for a long time until I got tired of being woke. And politically correct.
Yeah,
my filter gets the better of me. But yeah, I was testing it that way. I did without it, and like I said, it started doing better the last 2 days. It's coming back down. It didn't just drop back down, but it's like I checked this morning after I've been up about 5 hours. My glucose was like 88. My ketones was 1.2.
So here's
back up.
Here's how it could happen, and then you would decide, are the numbers changing? Well, we know the numbers are changing based on whether you take it or don't take it. How about the way you feel, your energy levels, weight gain, things like that? Anything else changing?
Well, I haven't got the weight since I've been back out on the road. I was at home when I got it, and I was just doing it once a day. Now, when I was taking it, I felt great. I used to take Phentermine and Adipex, years ago. I used to be 600 pounds, and now I'm about 295. So, I've come a long way.
Congratulations.
But, and I'm one of those, I did have the gastric bypass about 10 years ago before I knew better. Got talked into it. And I got down to about 380, but so I've still lost almost 100 pounds after being stalled out at 380 for 9 years.
Excellent.
So, I'm starting to move back in that direction. Since I started doing keto last summer, I got off of it. I got off the road. And so
Now that actually brings up another point, and I wouldn't have thought to ask this. Your digestion works different than other people's now. That's been altered.
Right.
We're actually working with a gastroenterologist now to try to help support people that have had digestive surgeries of all kinds. You know, your gallbladder gets taken out, lap bands, bypass surgeries.
No, I made sure mine stayed in.
Good. So we're just trying to learn more so we can help more. But here's why it could be happening. The body will, two things. One, when you eat very low carb, your body is more primed to produce its own glucose. It gets better and better at producing its own glucose because our brain has to have some glucose. And if we don't eat enough, our body will make some. That's why we get what we call the dawn effect. Now, on top of that, anything that tastes sweet, even if it's not going to physically raise your blood sugar, just the sweet taste can be enough so that your body starts putting out some insulin and other things because it thinks carbohydrates are coming. So, and that actually gets amplified when you eat lower carb. Then when you do taste something sweet, your body will dump some glucose and some insulin and other things. So it does sound already like that's what's happening. Now we need to determine, is it only a number or is it actually affecting the way you feel?
Oh, I mean, I feel great. I mean, it's like I've got cushions in my joints and stuff again. I almost got out at the receiver that then ran to the shipping office. And, I felt so bouncy and, I felt great.
Good.
Now, this was before I started Cardio Miracle, before I went home. Since then, I mean, I've been a little more tired and stuff than I was, before the numbers went down. Once the numbers went down, my energy went back down.
Okay, then here's the thing. I would test this one or two more times, and if that is the result, I would stop taking it.
Yeah, and I was just taking it for the benefits. I've never really had high blood pressure. I mean, last time I checked it when I had my DOT2, it was like 112 over 65-ish. And that was at 330 pounds because I was 330, a month ago.
Yeah.
I've already lost, like I said, 35 pounds in the month I've been doing back and I'm actually doing more carnivore, ketovore.
Excellent. Yeah, if the way I approach this, if it changes the numbers, that'll get my attention. Then I'm going to test it a couple times. If all it does is change the numbers the way you just described, I wouldn't even worry about it. That's why I ask, but how are you feeling? And if you start feeling like I don't have as much energy, I don't have as much, then I would stop.
But of course, my sleep schedule got a little messed up with some of the loads I had to, deliver, odd times of the night. So that was part of it too, I'm sure. But I was wondering too, maybe if fat adaptation was maybe a part of some of the reason the glucose might have went up because, now I'm starting to use the ketones better than the fat. And so it's like, okay, we're still producing a little bit too much glucose, so maybe it would adjust itself. I mean, because it's not going sky high, it's like 108, 110.
Right. Yeah, that's why
I've ever been.
I'm not really worried about the numbers. I see those kind of numbers when I eat real low carb all the time, but I do put more emphasis on how you feel. If we start doing something different and it makes us feel worse instead of better, I'll test it back and forth to make sure. But then at some point I'm going to say, I'm just not going to do this.
Right. Yeah, my doctor's always like, what's the opposite of TOFI? Stand outside, fat inside. I'm kind of the opposite, fat outside. But she said she would put my numbers up against anybody's, blood pressure, resting heart rate, like 58.
Excellent.
Excellent. Other than your weight, she goes, you could go out and run. Matter of fact, they thought I had a heart attack a couple years ago. I was having palpitations. My heart would just start racing, and then it would stop, for a couple of seconds and hit real hard. And so I went to the doctor, and she put me on the little mini, EKG, and says, "You've had a heart attack." So she sent me to a heart specialist, and he said, "You've had a heart attack." Put me on the treadmill and all that kind of good stuff. And he goes, "Yeah, you've had a heart attack." And did all this blood work, and had to go back a week later. He goes, "You haven't had a heart attack." He goes, "You got the healthiest heart I've ever seen." And this is after I'd been doing keto for a couple months.
Right.
The first time. And he says, you got the healthiest heart I've ever seen. I mean, they did the echo, looked at everything, looked for blockages and everything. And I didn't let them do any catheterization or anything like that, just all external scans.
Right.
He said, I got a question. He said, coffee or soda? I said, what do you mean? He goes, you drink one of those a whole bunch. I said, both. He goes, your magnesium is almost non-existent.
Yeah.
So got on some magnesium and never had a problem with it since.
Excellent.
But they were bound to come, and I had an heart attack from eating keto.
Yeah. Now, I think you've got a good handle on this, so I would trust your own instincts and your own judgment. If you feel like, when you're on the Cardio Miracle, you don't feel as good as when you're off of it, then I wouldn't take it. And there could be lots of reasons for that. It's, there is still some bio-individuality. All right, looks like we got Greg back, so I'm going to move him to the top of the line here. Greg, welcome.
Hey, and thanks for taking my call, Kevin. Not hanging up on me this time.
Yeah, the first time I couldn't hear you. The second time I hung up on you. I think the third time's a charm.
Exactly. First, I wanted to give you somewhat of an update. About a month and a half, 2 months ago, I had called you about a couple questions. My sister-in-law, who was doing that challenge and had was doing keto, and I finally, after years, got her to try it, and she, like I told you, she became a believer, and especially when she ended the challenge, and I think she had lost in 90 days, I think it was 16% body fat.
Wow.
It was, and I can't remember what the pounds were, but yeah, she's ecstatic. I saw a picture of her yesterday, and I mean, it's just amazing, and she's definitely sold on it now. It took me years to get her there.
Excellent. Well, good for you, because that's the one thing we all struggle with when we learn how effective this is and how much it can help people. We always want to share it, but it's the hardest thing to do. So congratulations.
Yep. Well, especially, she had her, they've got a trainer, and he is so against keto and all that. And, so she had to kind of do it behind his back. And, so now she's ready for the aha moment to let him know.
Awesome.
But, go ahead.
No, that's awesome.
I had
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, it was just I know I'd asked you. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, but I can't find the show it was on. So I did like you did over the weekend, and took out a couple of butts, and I'm gonna put them on the smoker today. What all did you say you normally put in whenever you can them?
So I'll just go through the whole process on the pork butts, because I've had several questions on it, and I haven't had time to write this up yet. So, so I smoke it differently, because when we can meat, it's going to get a long cooking at a high temperature, 75 minutes at like 250, which is a lot of cooking. So it's going to cook in the canning process itself. We could actually start with raw pork, and it would cook completely till it fell apart just in the canning. So, normally I would smoke a pork butt for 8 or 10 hours, sometimes at a low temperature. I only put it on the smoker for 4. You can't get any more smoke flavor. 4 is about the maximum. You get a nice deep smoke ring on it. You get a good smoke taste. Now, it is still almost raw inside, because it's 4 hours at like 185 on the smoker. So pretty low temperature.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to cut. It's hard to get off the bone completely. But then it's ready to can. It's got smoke flavor. It's not totally cooked. So in the bottom of the jar, I put raw onion and roasted hatch green chilies. That's it. That's what, and a little salt goes in every jar, because salt makes everything taste better. So, and then I top off. So the process, I mix the onions and the green chilies, so I can just put it in at one time. There's no reason not to mix them. So I mix those first. That goes in the bottom of the jar. Then I pack in as much meat as I possibly can. I use a wooden dowel, and I pound it down into the jar. And bring it up to just below the bottom of the threads, and then I top it off with chicken bone broth. And that creates just...
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that creates just an awesome flavor, and we also get the benefits of the bone broth every time we eat the meat now. And then that's it, a little pinch of salt, and I do... Now I actually do all the meat this way. I do turkey, I do pork, I do chicken. I do it all the same because it just tastes so darn good.
Yep. And so let me ask you this. I don't know, because I know you use an electric smoker or a pellet smoker, right?
Pellet smoker, yeah.
Yeah. So, which I have one, but on big pieces of meat like that, I like more smoke flavor. Can you get too much? Because I was going to do it on my wood smoke, because I've got both a pellet smoker and a wood smoker.
So
I know, I get more smoke out of the wood.
Yeah, so and I've used just about every type of smoker there is. Real wood, which I love. It's just a lot of work. I love the pellet grill because it's just so darn easy and consistent. I have a Traeger Timberline, which has a super smoke setting on it. As long as your temperature is under 225 degrees, you can turn on super smoke. And I get just as much smoke out of that mode as I've ever gotten out of real wood. And to answer your question,
really,
not only do you not get too much smoke, it's actually hard to get enough. And I think what happens is when you pour in the broth and then you pressure cook it for that long, you actually lose some of the smoke flavor. So my goal is to try to get as much smoke on it as I possibly can. So if you want to try, wood, don't worry. I don't think you're going to get too much smoke.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. I had a Traeger years ago, and I didn't like it. It did not. Of course, it didn't have the super. I mean, it had the smoke setting, but not like a super smoke. And it was okay for ribs and all, not great, but. And I switched to a RecTech, and it gives a lot better smoke, but this one does not give off as much as I can on wood.
When I put this on super smoke at 185, the smoke just rolls out of that thing.
I guess they've come a long way. Of course, like I said, that one I probably got it 10 or 12 years ago, and when it comes time to replace mine, because I use it a lot, and it's good. It's still in good shape, but when day comes, heck, I might have to look into something else.
I've heard a lot of people love the RecTech. I don't think I've ever heard anything bad about them. People really love that one.
I do. I love it.
Yeah, over the years, I've been through a couple pellet smokers. I got a Green Mountain when they very first came out, and I just wore that thing out. I've had a couple little portables that have worn out. This Timberline is pretty heavy duty. And if I ever did wear this one out, or if for some reason I wanted another one, my next one will be a RecTech, just because I've heard so many good things about them.
Oh, it is. I mean, and they're great. The only downfall to RecTech is you can't get them in stores. But if you have any issue, they overnight you parts, and it's got they got a 6-year warranty. So me and a couple of my brothers and quite a few of my friends that have bought them, and we all love them. But
that'll be my next.
Also, and you'll love it, believe me. And like I said, mine gets a lot of use, and I can even grill. Heck, I rarely use charcoal anymore. Even for grilling, I'll grill a steak on it. Get it up to about 500-600 degrees and grill it. But so also though, my other question was doing the liver. I got it because that's what I'm gonna have tonight, and I got it soaking in buttermilk. And you had said I forget what kind of flour that was, but
arrowroot.
Arrowroot.
Yeah.
So, and do you add what kind of seasonings? Do you add any seasonings to it?
You know, for some reason, for me, if I do a steak or other, I have a couple blends that I really like to use. But when it comes to liver, I just like salt and pepper. That's all I put on it.
That's what I was kind of thinking.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of do you roll it in the arrowroot or just kind of sprinkle it on it?
No, so I just put it in. Actually, the best way to do it is put your arrowroot in a Ziploc bag, and then I take the liver right out of the buttermilk. Give it a little bit of a shake to get the excess off, but not too much. Then I just throw it in the bag and shake it up.
Okay, and then as far as frying it, I guess probably either olive oil or avocado oil.
Yeah, something that'll avocado oil, has a smoke point of about 500 degrees, or I'll use beef lard, or beef tallow or pork lard. Most of those can handle pretty decent temperatures without really burning, because I want that pan screaming hot. So I use a little bit of an oil that will hold up to that heat. Avocado is one of the best for holding up to that kind of heat. Most good olive oils some olive oils will start smoking at 320. Some olive oils have a really, really low smoke point. So I tend to go with either avocado oil or an animal fat.
So what do you, do you get it up to a certain temperature before you drop it in there?
Just screaming hot. That's my temperature.
Just get it hot.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll tell you. So I'll tell you another product. I don't know if you've heard of or not, and I don't know how you do your whenever you fully cook something and you want it to a certain temperature. But a thing called ThermoPen. You ever heard of it?
So I have a feel. I haven't heard of that specifically, but I have a feeling it does the same thing as a product I found that changed smoking for me completely. There's that issue, especially with pork, where you reach that stall point. You get right around 160 degrees or so, and it stops getting hotter. And one of the reasons is the internal fat starts melting at that point, and that melting fat keeps cooling the meat down. And you can't seem to get past that point. They call it the stall. I use something called pink butcher paper. And it's probably the same idea. You wrap the meat, you take the meat off the smoker, wrap it in this pink butcher paper, put it back in, and then your temperature will start going right back up again.
Oh, okay. Actually, though, what this is because I know generally most things that I smoke, in order to break down the collagens and all, you want to get it to about 200 degrees or so on the internal temperature. That's all this is. And it's super accurate because only the tip of it gives the temperature.
Oh,
so you can put a lighter to the middle of the probe. Yeah, and it's an instant one. It's not one that's like Bluetooth or whatever. But it makes it to where I can get the exact temperature of the meat and pull it off at the right time.
Yeah, my Traeger does have the built-in probe, and it is Wi-Fi, which I absolutely love because I can sit inside, set an alarm on my phone, start reading a good book or working, and never even have to think about it. My alarm goes off when I want it to. I go out there, I play, and I'm not always opening it and closing it and playing around with it. So I put it on. The only time it gets opened is if I'm going to take it off and wrap it in the butcher paper. And honestly, I've gotten to the point now, and I know, hardcore smokers will probably shudder at this, but honestly, 3 or 4 hours is all the smoke you're going to get on something. My ribs.
Well, no, you're absolutely right. Because I do a lot. I've for years, smoking, grilling, do it a lot. Yeah, you're right. That's a known fact to people who really know about that kind of stuff. Yeah. You're lucky. I don't even think it takes 4 hours to, most of the time 2 or 3 hours and 4 max is all it's going to take smoke.
Yeah, so what I started doing now, I have really, really nice double ovens in my kitchen, really accurate, precise, because I love to cook. So now, once I get to that 3 hour smoke point and it's time to wrap it anyway, since I'm taking it off to wrap it, I don't even bother to go back onto the smoker. I just put it in my ovens inside. It's so much easier and it works better.
You know, I have thought about that before, but I just can't make myself do it. And it really doesn't make sense if you're right, because I do the same thing. I wrap mine in foil, but I can't make myself put it in the oven, and it would make more sense. It's cheaper than the pellets.
Here's the difference, because I used to wrap mine in foil. Here's what's different about wrapping it in the pink butcher paper. The foil is moisture can't penetrate through the foil. So you actually end up steaming your meat a little bit, which makes it hard to get a really good bark on there. The pink butcher paper still breathes. So your temperature climbs like it's supposed to, but you get this beautiful bark that it's hard to get when you wrap it in foil.
Wow. So you just get it's pink butcher paper?
There are several products out there. I have one specific place that I used to use this guy's recipes all the time from online, and then he would always talk about this paper. He actually sells it. If you look up pink butcher paper, you'll find probably several products like this.
Okay. I'm definitely going to look that up. Certain things I'm willing to try new. Not a whole lot when it comes to my cooking, but I would definitely give that a try.
Give it a try.
All right, man. I won't take up any more of your time.
Yep, you'll be surprised. But also, I was the same way with you in the oven. I'm like, man, am I really going to put this in an oven? I would never go back. 3 to 4 hours on the smoker, no matter what meat it is, and then it gets wrapped and goes in my oven to finish. Let's go to Tennessee. Mark, welcome to the program.
Stanford Grand legal license is suspended for misconduct. Do you know that?
Hey, Chris, nobody's listening to you anymore. Just go away, really. Let's go to Las Vegas. Gene, welcome to the program.
Hey, good day, Kevin.
What's on your mind?
Before I get the question I called about, I have another question I developed as I was listening. I have a couple trucks and I have a driver that's starting a dedicated route, and I have a car that he's going to be driving back and forth that the company bought. Do I write the miles back and forth, or just the expense for the gas, or how do I approach that with him driving that car back and forth every day?
Hold on, I totally missed something there. Go back and start that question over.
Okay, I have multiple trucks, and I have a driver. We're starting a dedicated route today, and I have the company bought a car that he's going to be going back and forth to the truck to and from.
Okay.
Technically, with him running the car back and
technically, this gets really weird because back and forth is considered commuting. Back and forth from where we live to where we start our job or where our job exists. That's considered commuting, and commuting is never deductible. Not for anybody, not for the business, not for the employee. So unless we can figure out a way to call it not commuting, like I said, you can go make a stop. That's a little harder for an employee. So that's not going to work all that well in this case. But then we also have to make sure, if we were to try to do this, that we're not creating some sort of a tax liability for the employee, because you've now given him a benefit. He doesn't have to use his own car. There can be some weird tax rules around that. So if all this vehicle, when it's being used for him to go back and forth, I just wouldn't deduct it. It's technically, it's not deductible. It's too complicated. I would ignore it. I also wouldn't deal with the fact that you're giving him a benefit. I would just ignore it. Now, if you use this vehicle for anything else, going to get parts, that kind of stuff, then it's deductible, the mileage.
Right. Could I deduct the cost of the fuel back and forth?
No, it doesn't matter which method. You just can't take any kind of a deduction when it's commuting miles.
So if he transports parts back and forth to the
Then
vehicle,
it's-
to the truck.
Then the mileage is deductible, yes.
Okay, very good. Now on to my other question that confuses me a little bit. If the normal IFTA miles versus the mileage tax in Oregon,
Okay.
is Oregon charges 24 cents per mile for every mile you drive? Is that correct?
I don't know the number, but yes, it is a mileage tax, not a fuel tax in Oregon. That is correct.
So if I would drive in Washington instead of Oregon, because I'm going to go from Seattle down to Kansas City, and there's two routes. I can go the high route and not touch Oregon, or I can come down to Oregon and go the lower route. When I was doing this in my head, if my fuel mileage is 8 miles a gallon, and I'm in Washington State, which I forget, I'm going to say it's 40 cents. I don't remember what it is. But I would divide the 40 cents by my fuel economy to see how much per mile that I'm giving the state of Washington as opposed to Oregon, correct?
That is correct. Yep. And you're thinking correctly. Most times, like where I'm standing right now, 84 in Oregon is right behind me, and across the river is 14 on Washington. They both go straight through the gorge. As long as you can get through the tunnels on the Washington side, because they have some weird low tunnels, you're almost always better off traveling on the Washington side.
It's more cost efficient.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. That's what I thought I had it right, but I just needed verification that my logic was going in correctly.
Nope, your logic is correct.
So that makes Oregon the most expensive state to drive through then.
Technically, it can be. It gets a little more complicated than that. If you look at states like Pennsylvania, with like a 78 cent, I think, fuel tax, pretty darn high.
4.2.
Okay. Yeah.
I live in Pennsylvania, so
it's high. And what confuses people is when they hear that, their immediate reaction is, well, I'm not going to buy fuel in Pennsylvania then. That's the absolute wrong way to think about this. You don't pay the tax because you bought fuel. You pay the tax because you drove in their state.
Right. And I adapted your logic before. It took me a while to get my head around it. I just looked with our app from Landstar. We can see what the net price of fuel is. Take the discount out, take the IFTA out.
Perfect.
I hunt for that cheapest gallon of net diesel fuel.
That is
the only
correct. Now, many times you've heard me say you can't really change your fuel tax amount. It has nothing to do with where you buy, it's where you drive. And there are very few times where you could take a different route that would make sense. Usually, no, you can't avoid an entire state usually. If you have to drive through it, you have to drive through it. But right here where I'm standing, the gorge is one of those examples. It's like a half a mile. For you either take 84, you cross the river, and it's right there. Yeah, and like I said, as long as you can make it through the tunnels, this is one of those times where you could make the choice, and you can actually save yourself some money.
Right. Yeah, that's why I just wanted to make sure, because I was looking the northern route to go over through South Dakota and come down to Kansas City, or to take the lower route.
I
was going to run the higher route.
I just did that on the way home. The absolute shortest route for me from, say, I left Pittsburgh Power and came home, is 80. Just 80 the whole way, and then you come up through Utah and Idaho. But I hate that route. I've done it so many times. I really don't enjoy it. It adds about an hour and a half for me to go 90 instead. It doesn't really matter much when I jump up to 90. You can do it right in Chicago. You can do it in Kansas City. There's a couple places. Well, not from, that would be from 70 up. But on this last trip home, I was just so tired of taking that shorter route that I chose to take that. And then you do come down through the Tri-Cities and back into Oregon, but you spend quite a bit of time in Washington.
Right. That's why I was also taking into consideration how much climbs do you have? Where's your best fuel economy going to be on the highway?
Right.
Right. There's a couple hills coming in through Wyoming, going down through. I haven't been in Montana a whole lot, but I'm thinking it's more flat land, open running, less climbs.
A lot of 90 through Montana's fairly level. You do have some long, gradual climbs, and then at the very end, just before you get into Idaho and then into Idaho and all the way through Idaho, you've got a couple pretty hard pulls through there.
Right. But then again, I don't know personally until I do it myself. I mean, it's just, and where do I get my economy at? And also to touch back on to the reference Pittsburgh Power, I had that, one of my other trucks has that Series 60 that had the burping issue going on.
Yeah.
And Leroy, he fixed me up. That was if anybody has that problem going on, which when I called over and talked to them, they said they had several people call them after I was on the show and said what was going on, and they had the same exact thing. So it's more out there than what was known even beginning. I think Leroy said they had 7 or 8 people call in.
I was shocked. You were the first one I had heard. When I first heard you talk about it, it reminded me of what we used to call the coughing issue with the variable geometry turbos and EGR. Primarily on the ISX, they were the worst, but the 14-liter EGR engine did it. It sounded like that, but we knew it couldn't be that. But you were the first one I had ever heard of it on a pre-emission Series 60, but I'll bet I had 10 messages about it.
Yeah, I just had a gentleman call me. That's whenever you come to me earlier, a gentleman had called me to ask me about that. He'd heard me on the radio. He got my phone number and called me, and I was answering his question whenever you put me on the air, and then he called me back.
Got it.
But Leroy definitely figured that out. The truck ran great. It runs just like my N14 does now.
Excellent.
Maybe a little bit better fuel economy.
Yeah, excellent.
It was 180 degrees improvement. I was in the Flagstaff with that truck, and I was going to Vegas with it the trip before, and the traffic was back up on 40, so I jumped off the town. I was going over to Little America, and just going through those traffic lights, when I was at that lower speed, it was coughing and puking smoke, and sometimes you wondered if he's even going to make the next traffic light. It felt so bad. Once he did that, I ran up into Detroit, and then I ran over to Eastern PA, and it ran flawlessly. I mean, it was 180 degree improvement on that aspect.
My guess, that's really good to hear, and I'm glad we figured this out. And Leroy and Pittsburgh Power's got a fix. My guess is you could take this to 20 different shops around the country, and they'd never figure it out.
I had a couple mechanics around it. We're all scratching their heads. That's why we put injectors and the harness in it.
Yeah.
Looking at some other issues, it wasn't until, and I'm only 45 minutes away from Pittsburgh Power.
Well, that's nice.
Matter of fact, I'm the one to stop by and drop the book off for you.
Oh yeah,
your camp backpack.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that, by the way. Thanks for bringing this issue to our attention. It sounds like it is far more common than we realized. Let's go to Virginia. Mike, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin, are you having a good day today?
I'm having a wonderful day. What's on your mind?
Well, on that Cardio Miracle, well, you know how you do your bulletproof coffee?
Yeah.
Or however you want to say it. Well, I just take and mix some coconut oil and some of the bone broth and some collagen, and I put the Cardio Miracle in it, and then I just mix it up with hot water in about probably a 32-ounce cup and drink it that way.
Really? So bone broth,
pretty good, you ask me.
Coconut oil.
Collagen.
So that would be a very savory flavor, and I love the taste of the Lona Life bone broth, but I can't imagine adding sweetness to that.
Well, it doesn't really taste sweet at all, to be honest.
Okay.
I mean, because I use that Thai curry bone broth.
Oh, okay. The Thai curry's got a pretty strong taste. I love the Thai curry, by the way. Well, this might be interesting.
Yeah,
I really, really enjoy my Cardio Miracle cold. I love it on ice. I have a big tumbler from working outside. I really like it cold. But for people who may not like the taste cold and get that weird aftertaste, this might be a way around that.
Yeah, I mean, because it's pretty good, you ask me. And I have another issue. I called you, what was it, probably about, back in February, I guess it was, maybe before that, but about the blood clots I had, and Dr. Wilson.
Yeah.
And I talked to Dr. Latanza, who's, an associate of his, and I'm the one that sent you that paperwork on the dysbiosis.
Yes.
Where I had the real high numbers on dysbiosis and all that.
Right.
And I'm still trying to get that all figured out because I'm taking all the stuff she recommended to me to take, the N-Tenzyme Forte and some Ibuterol, I think it is, or Buterin.
Okay.
So I'm taking stuff like that. And ever since last July, I have had an issue with being itchy, and she says it's probably from the dysbiosis, and it seems to be slowing down a little bit, but I guess I just have to keep doing the, I guess it's called glutarase that she's got me on.
Glutarase, yeah. Anything that ends in ASE like that is going to be some sort of an enzyme.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's starting to get taken care of. I mean, I'm not as itchy as I was for a while there. I was going crazy for a while.
Well, good. That's a good sign. And
anyway,
dysbiosis doesn't go away quickly or easily. When you get a bad case of dysbiosis, sometimes we have to work at it really hard to get it to improve.
Right. Well, if you remember that paperwork I sent you with the score sheet on my dysbiosis,
yours was pretty bad.
I was up there in the 9s.
Yeah, yours was pretty bad. That's going to take some work, but it sounds to me like they're absolutely on the right track.
Yeah. Now, would that be an issue with fat digestion too? With that,
it can be.
By chance?
Yeah, it can be. Anytime we're dealing with digestion, there are always multiple issues. If we're not producing enough enzymes, which enzyme is it? We have enzymes that break down protein. We have enzymes that break down carbohydrates. We have enzymes that break down fat. So, and this is again why it can get fairly complicated to fix dysbiosis, because we have to fix all of the other digestive issues at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's about all I have.
All right. That's all I need today. Thanks for the call. I'm going to head off one more call. Looks like we're going to go to Texas. Paul, you get the last word today. What's on your mind?
I'm actually in Oklahoma, so
close enough.
Right. Yeah, near enough. Same thing, just spelled different.
Yeah.
I got two things real quick. Someone called the other day and mentioned me. Yes, I'm a Kiwi, and a Kiwi can also be a fruit or a bird, and we don't give a crap. We're not offended.
Good. Good.
Yeah. So I haven't seen any news at all since Thursday, or heard any news since Thursday. Well, yesterday I'm trucking along and I noticed, there's a lot of flags flying at half staff, and it's like, I guess somebody died. So then I see on Facebook later, I only looked at the headline, I didn't even read the story, but apparently a bunch of people got killed by some lunatic with a gun.
Yes.
So are we going to fly the flag at half staff every day for the people that get killed by medical malpractice or opioids or fentanyl or traffic deaths? Does many people get killed by that?
Well, to answer your question, no, we're not going to. And for one, there's one big reason. It would lose all its meaning because we would have to fly it at half staff every single day. Not to say we shouldn't, but it would lose its meaning when you do something every day. Then what's the real meaning behind it? Why we choose
the new normal.
Why we choose this particular incident, which You can add up
Because it was a gun crime.
all of the mass shootings that happen, and they don't even come close to the things that happen every single day. All the people we kill on highways every day, all the people that fentanyl kills every day now is just tragic. But we mostly ignore those. See, this kind of stuff, one, it's very sensational for headlines, so you sell, more advertising and people watch the news more when something like this happens. So news, I don't want to be too morbid and say they love this kind of stuff, but in reality, they kind of do. And that same old stuff that happens every day, that's just not very exciting news, I guess.
Yeah. Well, my sister, she always used to say, news, that stands for negative events we sensationalize. And I tend to agree with you.
That's
what news stands for.
That's actually brilliant. That really is, because that is exactly right. It's not that it's the most important thing that happened. It's just what we decide to sensationalize and now politicize. So get ready for we're going to come and take your guns again, because that's really what this always leads to.
Yeah. So I guess I'll send them to the Ukrainians.
Yeah,
Maybe.
well, if they would just look at one statistic in multiple cities around the country right now, we know that crime is going through the roof. But if you look at what's happening, we are taking more and more guns off the street, which is what they said was causing the crime. And yet the more guns we take off the street, the higher the crime goes, because what we're not taking off the street are people.
It's the illegal. And the illegal gun.
We're letting the people who commit the crimes go out with no cash bail. They're free. We let them out of jail. So just look at the statistics. We take a bunch of guns off the street, crime doesn't go down. We stop taking criminals off the street, and crime goes up. It's not the guns, it's the people. But they'll use this story to come after our guns again.
Yep. So, all right, that's all I got today. So.
All right, that's all I need, and that is going to wrap it up today. Great show. Thanks, everybody. We will be back tomorrow for the Power Hour and the Pit. We will see you then. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey.